Mahuhiki, John? Well, it could happen when too many things get too close to each
I
other.
think that the keyboard is very low, the volume up there, so you control it however you want over here.
Oh, okay. I can do that.
You noticed, 70. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Good Shabbos.
So we've been admiring this artwork that surprised us all when we walked in today. And I don't know a whole story about it, except this is Jay and, where are they? Hi, Jay and Harriet's daughter Elise. This is a new hobby of hers in some sense. And she's been making this piece of wood that she painted on and did all kinds of cool things too. And so they loaned this to us tonight to look at it. I think it's pretty cool, especially since we're celebrating things tonight. We're counting Omer. You know where we are? What day do we start with tonight? Oh, this is bad.
21, 25, 7, 30.
What?
30.
Somebody's counting. So we're going to be doing 32 tonight. 32 tonight, which is 4 weeks and 4 days. There's like a pattern here. We're always how many weeks and 4 days every week. It's kind of funny how those numbers work. But by tomorrow night, we will be at 33. And you know what 33 means? Lag BaOmer is tomorrow night, starts tomorrow night. And Sunday we'll be celebrating Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of the Omer. And if you have no idea what that means in the big scheme of things, good. So come on Sunday and we'll talk about it more on Sunday, because today we're on Lamed Bet of the Omer. 30 and 2 is Lamed Bet, and 32, Lamed Bet is Lev, which means heart. What does that mean in the Omer? Nothing, but I still like saying it. 32 is a heart. I don't know a lot of gematria off the top of my head where you know what things add up to, but that's one of them that I know, that Lamed and Bet equal 32, and Lev is a heart. As a matter of fact, it's one of those lessons that you know when we talk about this at Simchat Torah, that the very last letter of the Torah is a Lamed, and the very first letter of the Torah is a Bet. And so when you read the last word and then the first word right after, then it becomes your heart, Lev. I have another one I wanted to share with you like that. The Torah portion that we're going to talk about tomorrow is the end of Leviticus, and it is really, and I'm not exaggerating, painful to read parts of it. It talks about blessings and it talks about reproach, which some people call curses. I don't like any of those words. I don't like reading them. They're terrible. They're beyond, they're like for mature audiences only, but even mature audiences shouldn't hear them, because they're that terrible. But in the Torah portion it says, if you keep my commandments and do my laws and do all those things, then lovely things will happen to you. And if you don't, then terrible things will happen to you. So along those lines of knowing that Lag BaOmer means 33rd and Lamed Bet means Lev is heart, I wanted to share that a cool insight that I discovered. Im, the word for if, im is spelled Aleph Mem. And so one of the commentaries that I heard is that sometimes to make things happen, that possibility thing, you need somebody else with you. You need a partner. Tonight I've got another Rabbi Yonatan Sadoff is here from Magen Avraham. So I wanted to point out that Magen Avraham is the name of his synagogue. Omer, Israel, is the name of the town where he's from. But Magen and Avraham start with the letters Mem and Aleph. And the word Im is Aleph and Mem. And the word Im also starts, the Aleph and Mem represent, according to some sages, Aharon and Moshe, Aaron and Moses, that they were a good team together, right? And then, if you keep digging, Esther and Mordechai, another Aleph and Mem team. And then, if you keep digging, they say Eliyahu, Elijah, and Mashiach, and the Messiah, because you know Elijah is supposed to herald the Messiah. That was what this one sage had hinted to me about. But the im that I like this weekend, we've been thinking a lot about Israel recently, and we're thinking about this. I like the im tirtzu, ein zo agada. If you will it, it will not be a dream. I promised Jay I would try to keep him awake. So hopefully you will not dream until you get home tonight, and then hopefully you will have wonderful dreams after that. But now we're going to start Shabbat, or our welcoming of Shabbat. So I don't think every day was like a week this past week. It was just one of the most ridiculously long. Let me give you a hint about just yesterday alone. So yesterday, the plumber comes because months ago, one of the board members said, you know, if you had 2 separate meters, one for the lawn water and one for the water that comes into the building, you'd save a lot of money. And we said, why? We're using the same amount of water. And he said, well, because you pay extra to have the water that goes down the drain go through the system. But you don't have to pay for that if it's going through the irrigation process. It goes into the ground and it becomes part of that great cycle of life thing. And we said, great idea. And then we never did it. And so we finally did it. And so yesterday, the plumber came, and what we didn't know is that he had to come with one of those giant digging trucks, and he put a giant hole, long pathway hole in our front yard. And guess what? Yesterday was the day when the lawn guy was supposed to come. And so the good news is that he didn't come yesterday because it rained all the beginning of the week, but we didn't know he wasn't coming. And the bad news is we were hoping he was coming because we have a picnic on Sunday. But the lawn guy didn't come. He came today. Everything's fine. The bad news is the gift shop had a flood in it again. And so they put a hole in the wall this time to see where the leak is coming from. They found a spot on the roof that they think might finally be the solution. And they were going to come back the next day to put a lot of water on the roof to see if they fixed it or if that's the problem. And guess what day they chose to come back? The day when the water was turned off. So the whole day the water's turned off. And finally, it didn't take them like long. They were finished at like 3 or something. And they came back and they started going back up on the roof and turning the water on. And something that he did, this really, really nice man, something that he did, he was using a power tool, and the power tool jumped up and bit him in the finger, went directly to the bone. There was blood everywhere. Harriet and I were here. Harriet and I had to play doctor. I mean, he comes walking through the building and there's drips of blood everywhere he went. And we took some stuff and we wrapped up. Afterwards, I kind of joked because we used the kit that was in there. And I tried to find like a big, fluffy kind of a gauze pad. And the only one that they had there that looked fluffy enough was something called an iPad. I used an iPad to fix this. And then I wrapped a lot of gauze around it. And then David comes into the building and he whooshes him off to the hospital. And the guy comes back with a cast that's this long because he's got to have stitches in his ligaments. That was just yesterday. And that wasn't even my part of the day. I had other things I was doing yesterday. So I need 3 breaths today. I don't know about you. So let's please take a deep breath. And let it out really slowly. I feel my heart still too fast. Try it again. And let it out really slowly. And one more time. And let it out slowly. Anybody sleeping? No. I would like now to invite Jay and Harriet Glazer, the parents of the person who made this gorgeous artwork, to please come up, help us bless the candles and the wine. We are going to do service 3 tonight because I like it. We turn to page 82, and as is our custom, if it's comfortable for you to stand and sit, please rise. If not, stay seated, page 82.
Me? These candles are only flickering flames, yet flames illumine our uncertain steps. Flames remind us of Sabbaths long past and of their beauty that delighted our hearts. May they inspire us to work for the great Sabbath of peace. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You hallow us with your mitzvot and command us to kindle the Sabbath lights.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu Tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We now turn to page 167 as we get ready to bless the pretend wine, the symbol of joy. Page 167 and 166.
Thank you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam v'rei pri hagafen.
Amen.
We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine.
Amen.
Where's the rest of it? Did I
Right
miss
there?
it?
Yeah, it's right there.
Praise
It's
you.
right there?
That's right
Oh,
there. Again.
See, he brought a cheat sheet, and that never works. You
really-
should
and
have had the
I
book.
screwed up with it. That's what's so bad about it. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You called us to your holiness with the mitzvah of Shabbat, the sign of your love, a reminder of your creative work, and our liberation from Egyptian bondage, our day of days. On Shabbat especially, we hearken to your call to serve you as a holy people. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of Shabbat.
Amen.
Amen.
L'chaim. You may be seated. Say Shabbat Shalom to somebody near you, somebody you know, somebody you don't know, somebody you came in with, somebody you didn't come in with.
Think about it. Hi.
Shabbat Shalom.
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
You just stuck your glasses
Oh,
in
no.
my-
No, it was this. It was the microphone. I'm not good at this microphone. Yeah. We're poking today. This is not good. This is bad. We're on page 83. At the bottom of the page, we will be reading responsively. There are days when we seek material things and measure failure by what we do not own.
On Shabbat, we wish not to acquire, but to share.
There are days when we exploit nature with reckless greed.
On Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation.
There are days when we think only of ourselves.
On Shabbat, we open our hearts to the needs of others.
Therefore, we welcome Shabbat,
Day of rest, day of joy, day of peace.
and we welcome the angels that accompany us on Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bochem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni leShalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem leShalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The synagogue is the sanctuary of Israel. Born of our longing for the living God, it has been to Israel throughout our wanderings a visible token of the presence of God in our people's midst. Its beauty is the beauty of holiness. Steadfast it has stood as the champion of justice, mercy, and peace.
Its truths are true for all people. Its love is a love for all people. Its God is the God of all people. As it has been said, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples.
Let all the family of Israel, all who hunger for righteousness, all who seek the eternal, find God here, and here find life. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabba.
Amen.
Be'alma divra chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chaye b'chol Beit Yisrael. Bagala, bagala, ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יהא שמרה במברך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמך דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דהר מהירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. Oh God, how can we know you? Where can we find you? You are as close to us as breathing, yet you are farther than the farthermost star. You are as mysterious as the vast solitudes of night, yet as familiar to us as the light of the sun. To Moses you said, "You cannot see my face, but I will make all my goodness pass before you." Even so does your goodness pass before us, in the realm of nature and in the joys and sorrows of life. When justice burns within us like a flaming fire, when love evokes willing sacrifice from us, when to the last full measure of selfless devotion we demonstrate our belief in the ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness, then your goodness enters our lives, and we can begin to change the world. And then you live within our hearts, and we through righteousness behold your presence. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. You may be seated unless you're Joshua or Grayson or Mackenzie. And then I need you here. Hello. Glad to see you all. Come on, let's do this for him.
Getting really finished.
I know. School's almost done for you all. That's good. Let me do this. Dum-dee-dum-dee-dum. Yes, we know that Joshua's bar mitzvah. Oh, you ladies don't need that. Joshua needs that. Shh. Ready? Here.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושמתם לבניך ודיברת בם ושבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך ושתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בעיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות להם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
You shall love your eternal God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your being. Set these words which I command you this day upon your heart. Teach them faithfully to your children. Speak of them in your home and on your way, when you lie down and when you rise up. Bind them as a sign upon your hand. Let them be symbols before your eyes. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Be mindful of all my mitzvot and do them. So shall you consecrate yourselves to your God, I am your eternal God, who led you out of Egypt to be your God. I am your eternal God. I, the Eternal One, have called you to righteousness and taken you by the hand and kept you. I have made you a covenant people, a light to the nations.
That's the covenant between God and God's children.
This is the covenant I make with Israel. I will place my Torah in your midst and write it upon your hearts. I will be your God, and you shall be my people.
We are Israel. Our Torah forbids the worship of race or nation, possessions or power.
You who worship gods that cannot save you, hear the words of the Eternal One. I am God, there is none else.
We are Israel. Our prophets proclaimed an exalted vision for the world.
Hate evil and love what is good. Let justice well up as waters and righteousness as a mighty stream.
We are Israel, schooled in the suffering of the oppressed.
You shall not oppress your neighbors, nor rob them. You shall not stand idle while your neighbor bleeds.
We are Israel, taught to beat swords into plowshares, commanded to pursue peace.
Hamas, violence, shall no longer be heard in your land, desolation and destruction within your borders. All your children will be taught of your God, and great shall be the peace of your children.
We are Israel, O God, when we are witnesses to your love and messengers of your truth.
You are my witnesses, says the Eternal One, and my servant whom I have chosen. Know me, therefore, and put your trust in me.
We are Israel, O God, when we proclaim you God our Redeemer, as did our ancestors, shores of the Red Sea. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osefele, nora tehilot osefele, malechutecha rahuvanecha, bokei ayam lifnei Moshe, tzeli anu ve'ameru, Adonai imloch, Adonai imloch, leolam va'ed.
V'ne'emar, and it has been said, the Eternal One delivered Jacob and redeemed us from the hand of one stronger than ourselves. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. We praise you, O God, Redeemer of Israel. May we lie down this night in peace and rise up to life renewed. O God, spread over us your shelter of peace, of quiet and calm, and bless us with rest. And let a time come when morning will bring no word of war or famine or anguish, a time of happiness, of contentment and rest. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu va'al kol amo Yisrael va'al Yerushalayim. We give thanks for the night and its rest, and the promise of peace for all the world. Vishameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. Please rise for the tefillah, which begins on page 93. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, ve'Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanara, El Elyon, Gomer Hasadim Tovim, ve'Konei Hakol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. God of all generations, of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, of Sarah, Rebekah, Leah, and Rachel, be praised. Your wondrous creative power fills heaven and earth.
God of life and death, be praised. Through us, send help to the falling, healing to the sick, freedom to the captive. Confirm your faithfulness to those who sleep in the dust.
Awesome and holy God, be praised. With acts of love and truth, we hallow your name. As it is said, be holy, for I, your eternal God, am holy.
God of times and seasons, be praised. Enable us through Sabbath rest to explore and learn and impart the meanings of your Torah. Make our hearts ready to serve you this day and all days.
God, who answers prayer, be praised. May we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer, wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands, you are our God.
Source of life and its wonders, be praised. You are the miracle within all we behold. You are goodness. You are compassion. We give thanks to you forever.
God of peace, of justice, and of love, be praised. Inspire us to banish forever hatred, war, and bloodshed. Help us to establish forever one human family united in peace. God of peace, bless us with peace.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
take a moment of private meditation, private prayer, private conversation with God as we pray silently. Say shalom, Roma. Say shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'imru Amen. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oh, say shalom biroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'imru Amen. At this time in our service, our prayers and our thoughts turn to those who are ill or recuperating as we turn to the inside back cover of our prayer books. Included in our prayers today are Carl Bagey, Virginia Branch, David DeFata, Glenn Ellis, Shirley Eltis, Jill Fixler, Tracy Gold and Val Gold, Susan Israel, Sister Mary Joan, Evelyn Kern, Jada Wynn, Vicki Marks, Justin Rakowski, Lawrence Shore, Joanne Smith, Phyllis DePongzi, Jennifer Toys, and Stephen Zelanka. If you have other names that you'd like us to add to this list, I invite you to call them out, please.
Linda and Roy Harper.
For all these names, and for the names we choose to hold in our hearts and not say out loud, we pray together. Oh God, in our hearts we name those who are facing illness and pain. We join our prayers with the prayers of all who love them. Give them renewed comfort and courage. Strengthen in them the healing powers you have placed within us all. Guide the hands and hearts of those who are entrusted with their care. May the knowledge of your love and ours give added hope to them and to their dear ones. May they find even greater strength because our prayers are linked to theirs. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim. We praise you, eternal God, the source of healing and health. We add, Mishaberach Avotenu v'Imotenu. May the one who blessed and protected our ancestors guard all those whom we have entrusted with the responsibility of defending our freedom and protecting us in this country, in the land of Israel, and everywhere they've been called to serve. May they return home safely, and let us say,
Amen.
all right, here's the quiz part. What day did we say it was in the Omer? I gave you all kinds of really easy ways of remembering.
32.
32, good. So hopefully you've been counting all along. As you know, the rabbis teach that to count, the Torah tells us you have to count all of the days between the day after Passover, kind of, and the 49 days later till you get to Shavuot. You're supposed to count all the weeks, 7 times 7 weeks. And so some rabbis say that if you skipped a day, more than a day, then you're not supposed to say the blessing. But if you're counting with me today and you want to say the blessing, that's okay with me. So the blessing is the one we say for fulfilling all mitzvot, except at the end we add al sfirat ha'omer, about counting the Omer, as the punchline. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer. We praise God because God made us holy by giving us commandments, commanded us about counting the Omer. Hayom shnayim u'shloshim yom shehem arba'a shavuot v'arba'a yamim la'omer. Today is the 32nd day, making 4 weeks and 4 days of the Omer. Now, Omer, that's like the perfect segue. We're talking about Omer. We're talking about things that count. We talked about Magen Avraham already. You've always been part of our service, I guess. At this point, I would like to welcome officially again and invite Rabbi Yonatan Sadoff to come and speak to us. Most of you have already read the wonderful bio that he had sent us that we included in our bulletins. There are a couple things, and he'll tell us something about himself too. Some of the things that I wanted to point out, though, you will be able to tell that his American accent's really good, that he's been living in Israel about 9 years now, I guess. One of the things that I think is wonderful is that his rabbinic ordination and training all happened in Israel. Because that doesn't happen a lot where American-born people go through an Israeli program. So that's one of the things that impressed me a lot. His film background, which is why he belongs to be sister cities with us, is good. We talked about that a little bit today. He'll tell you more about that. So I would like to invite Rabbi Yonatan to come up and speak and tell us something about what's going on in Israel now, or whatever he wants to talk about. Thank you.
I don't go over my 10 minutes.
We got our clock up there, look. We have a clock up there, see?
I'll be in trouble.
That's right.
Can you hear me? Is this good? First of all, thank you so much for having me here as your guest. The services tonight have been very moving. Something really holy happens in this room, I can see. Max?
He needs volume up on his mic, please.
Here, maybe. How's that? Now we're talking. Okay. I just wanted to say how nice it was to pray with you here this evening. This is a special place. Not only is it an exquisitely remodeled and beautiful sacred space, but the energy in this room is palpable. It was really lovely to pray with you this evening. And I saw the video of the dedication of this new space on your website. And so it's good that you do that. And I was very impressed. And now I'm actually here, which makes it all even more real. And you're so privileged to have such a wonderful rabbi in Rabbi Jana. I have gotten to know her sort of over the course of about a year. We've been trying to do something now for a year or more to maybe do something together, or maybe get me out here. And through that process, we've gotten to know each other, and I've recognized what a wonderful spiritual leader, what a wonderful rabbi she is. So I know you all are nodding your heads, and so and she has said what a wonderful congregation this is, and I can see that she's right. A little bit about me. What did I want to tell you about me? So, yes, my English accent is excellent. I watch a lot of television. Now, I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and actually the rabbinate wasn't even my first occupation. I was, as Rabbi John said, in film and television. Somewhere making my way over to a sabbatical year to learn some Torah in Israel, and I guess you could just say I never left, except I did, and that's what's interesting about the story. After being in rabbinical school for the 5, I guess, years, I did a couple other years of extra credit because I was enjoying myself, but I was called back to my home city of Minneapolis to be a rabbi in a huge synagogue of, 1,400 families or something. I was not the head rabbi by any means. I was second rabbi, but it was really a privilege. I was telling someone that when I came back to Minneapolis, because there were no jobs in Israel after I was ordained. It just was bad luck, and so I was in Minneapolis, and as it would happen, because I was in Minneapolis, I was brought back to Israel. How did that happen? Other than the Shreveport community, which has a relationship with Magen Avraham, we have one other sister congregation, and that's where I grew up, in the synagogue I was at, the Adath Yeshurun. So, about a year into my being there at the Adath in Minneapolis, this group of kids comes from Magen Avraham to visit. Did this happen to you, that the group of kids came to visit? So a group of young people, of 16, 17-year-olds, comes from Magen Avraham to visit. And I said, well, I'll pick them up from the airport. Well, I don't mind. So I pick up the kids from the airport, and I take them to the lakes in Minneapolis, because that's what you do when you're in Minneapolis. There's a lot of lakes. Take them to the Mall of America. You take them to the lakes. And so I said, so what have you been doing on your trip? And they said, well, we've just been in Shreveport, Louisiana. And I said, really? What's that like? This is the first time I've ever been this far south. It is a culture shock, but it's a wonderful, wonderful Jewish community, and the only place that I've ever been where anyone would say Shabbat Shalom Y'all. So that was great. I really loved the hospitality. It was exactly. So I'm going back to Israel, and from now on, every night, Friday night, I'm going to say Shabbat Shalom Y'all to my congregation. Right. In the south.
South of Israel, so you could say Shabbat Shalom Y'all there.
I said, that's really funny that you should say that, Rabbi John said, because I'm in the south. I was just at a rabbinic convention with all these conservative rabbis, and they said, where are you? Where are you serving? I said, in the south. And they said, really, where? And I said, Omer. So, y'all. And so these kids that came to Minnesota, not only told me about Shreveport, but they went back to Israel, and they reported to their synagogue that there was a rabbi who had been ordained in Israel who was very cool, and you should bring him to be our rabbi. And apparently, at some point, the adults on the board listened and asked me if I wanted to come for an interview. And so from Israel to my hometown, back to Israel, and that's kind of my story. But what I wanted to talk about today, I saw here on your renewed wall, though you probably had this before, it says, Ki mitzion teitzei Torah. So from Zion Israel comes Torah, so let's hope I brought some with me. And as Rabbi Jana was just saying, I'm in Omer, which is really a suburb of Beersheba. This is the place. What do we know about Beersheba? We know someone who lived there in the Bible. Anyone remember? I'll give 5 points. Anyone who remembers. Who lived in Beersheba? Moses. I'm sure he passed through there at some point.
He didn't.
Because he was moving. No, actually, he was more over in the. He wasn't the meat bar though, which is very close. Another famous, 2 famous biblical characters. Anyone for Beersheba? Anyone for? I'll tell you. We call them the first 2 Jews. I heard it. I heard it out there. Don't be shy. What'd you say? Abraham and Sarah. That is right. Abraham and Sarah were from Beersheba. Has everyone heard of Beersheba? Okay. So that is not an English word, although there is a brewery bar in the city called Beersheba. But that's a play on words with the English. But Beersheba. So Sheva. Who can tell me what that means? 7, right? Anyone remember the word? This is a tough one. Be'er. Anyone got that? It's like anyone yelling out? A well, right? So how would you translate that? Be'er Sheva. 7th well, 7 wells, something like that. And usually people talk about some of the midrashim about, meaning the explanations, saying that there was a whole situation of 7 wells. But that's not actually where the name Beersheba, where I'm from, I mean, that I have this great privilege to live and walk where Abraham and Sarah walked and were, and where Abraham returned to after bringing his son Isaac to the altar. I mean, this is where I am, and there's actually, of course, as in all cities like this, a well that everyone says is the actual well of Abraham. I'm not sure that's true, but we like it. But here's what's very, very interesting about Beersheba, is the story that we have. So let me read this to you. So the background here is that the background here is that there was some conflict between Abraham and this king or this leader named Avimelech. And so Abraham wants to make peace with Avimelech and prove that he's dug these certain wells in this area, these wells. So what does he do? Abraham sends seven, okay, keep that in mind, 7, Sheva, ewe lambs of the flock to Avimelech. And Avimelech says to Abraham, what do these 7 lambs mean which you have sent them? Set them by themselves. So Abraham says, these 7 lambs, you should take them from me. He says, literally, you should take them from my hand, that they may be a witness to me that I have dug this well. There was a conflict about who dug it, who owned this well. Therefore, he called the place Beersheba, because they swore, both of them. The word Sheva in Hebrew, the number 7, comes from the word shvu'ah, an oath. You could think about Shabbat in the same way, that we get to the 7th day, right? And it's not just on the 7th, but it's a shvu'ah, it's an oath, it's a covenant between us and God. And this was a covenant here between Abraham and Avimelech, but it happened here in Beersheba because what happens when Abraham makes sure that he gives them these lambs, he says, you got to say that this is my well. What is he saying? He's saying, I lay claim to this land. This is my well. And they had an oath, a shvu'ah, a covenant between them that made sure that Abraham laid claim to this land. Now that's not in this week's Torah portion, but I thought it was appropriate in talking about where I come from, Because after all, why did Abraham and Sarah leave their homeland in Ur Kasdim, in Haran, in order to come to Eretz Yisrael, right? And lay claim on this well and have this Beersheba, have this well of an oath. It was in order to ensure that the generations to come from the very first mother and father of Judaism would exist. And guess what? If you came to Beersheba today, you would see an unbelievable city. If you were there 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you'd say we're in the middle of the desert. There's nothing here. There's maybe a shuk, an open market 20 years ago. And now there's a great city. And there are kosher restaurants. And there are Jewish people living there. And it's an exciting place with arts and culture. And Omer is a part of that, although it's sort of separate. And I'm not going to make the differentiation there for a moment because it's right there. It's part of this whole area of Beersheba. Abraham and Sarah cared about ensuring the Jewish future. Look at us. Look at us sitting in this room here in Shreveport. It's amazing. We are the inheritors. We have inherited that dream here. And in Beersheba, we have also rekindled that dream. And it's amazing. And it's amazing to be there. I was not only called to become a rabbi in my second life, but I was called to be part of Abraham's dream to ensure the Jewish future. Hundreds of generations, thousands of years have passed, and here we are. And what's special about the relationship between Shreveport and Omer and Beersheba is that we have worked together to ensure that that Jewish future will be in another 10, 20, 30 generations. We've had all kinds of activities together, some of which we haven't done for a while, but we're renewing them now. And we got our teens program, since I've been back in Omer for 2 years, we got our teen program going again, and we have kids involved in our youth group. We got many bar and bat mitzvahs. And I go out to the school, and the public school, and I teach the kids about Judaism. And if you think, oh, well, kids in Israel, they knew about Judaism. I had a meeting for parents of bar and bat mitzvah kids just 2 weeks ago. And I explained with one of my interns, I have a rabbinic intern, a woman named Amirit, whose father was the chief rabbi of Ireland. And we were teaching the parents and the kids about the Siddur, our prayer book. And we tried to teach them about some of the prayers and how it's organized. And one of the mothers comes up to me after the session, and she says, "Thank you so much for doing this." And I said, "Really? I'm glad that you found it interesting. Why do you think?" She says, "Because I didn't know that we had a book like this." The book we were all just praying from. I didn't know we had a book like this with prayers, Jewish prayers. And I think it's great. And now my son is going to be able to read these prayers in front of the congregation. I talked to Rabbi Gretz, who was the rabbi of Magen Avraham for 32 years, who's with me, and he said, "Do you know why I teach all of our bar and bat mitzvah kids to lead every single service from Friday night through Saturday morning?" I said, "No, why?" He said, "Because I had a story like that. A soldier came to me when I was in the army and I was a chaplain, and he said, 'Rabbi, can you say a prayer for me?' He said, 'Well, what would you like to pray for?' And he says, I have a sick person in my family and I'd like to pray for him. Can you say a prayer?" So Rabbi Gretz pulls out a Siddur and he opens it up. He starts saying a prayer. And the soldier says, "Well, what are you reading from?" He says, "The Siddur." He says, "What's that?" It's the Jewish prayer book. It's been passed down from generation to generation. And Rabbi Gretz said, it was on that day that I decided we would teach every single bar and bat mitzvah to lead all of the services so that they would be comfortable in any synagogue anywhere in the world, Reform, Conservative, Orthodox, anything in between. This is the work that I've been called to do, and for the last couple of years that I'm doing in Omer. I'm very proud to be doing it. It's not easy, and there are those who don't think that we are the real thing. They don't think, a conservative synagogue is real Judaism. But we know that we are, as you are, and that the young people and the adults that we touch, we're giving them something that no one else is. So I really thank you for your partnership. Maybe one day there will or won't be a community in Shreveport, but there will always be a Jewish community because we care about each other, and we all care about ensuring the Jewish future the way that Abraham and Sarah did. I invite you all to, somewhere in back are some newsletters to find out some of the things we're actually doing at Magen Avraham. And looks like, here you want to show them? Yes, I was dressed up as SpongeBob for Purim. So you can maybe see in there. You'll see. Yeah. The kids told me that I was Bob Spog, which apparently is, SpongeBob in Hebrew. And you can also become a sort of symbolic overseas member of the congregation if you'd like. There are forms to do that, and we'll send you these all the time. And what I always like to tell people is become an overseas member, because unlike your rabbi at home, if you only show up once a year, I'll be thrilled. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you. So just so you know, you're in good company, because Moses had like one whole lifetime, and then the second lifetime he became a leader of the Jewish people. So good things happen. This is good. Second lifetime. Mr. President, I only get to say this. You need the microphone. I only get to say this last time. He's not going to be Mr. President by next Shabbat. Ta-da. Can you believe this? Oh, you think that's bad. Mitch is not even going to be the board by next time.
Oh,
He's been on the board for
forever.
More than 22 years. I've been
They
here 22.
Built the building.
Yeah, exactly.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. It's wonderful
Good
to see
Shabbos.
you all here and to be with you all. Thank you, Harriet and Jay, for blessing our candles and our kiddush on the wine. The Oneg tonight is also hosted by Harriet and Jay Glazer in honor of their 47th wedding anniversary.
Yeshka.
And they said it wouldn't last. Go figure. That's a fabulous mazel tov. Thank you, Rabbi Yonatan from our sister city in Omer, for joining us and worshiping with us, and for the programs that you're going to participate with us. He will be at a Agudath Achim after services tonight, if everybody wants to go over there at 8 o'clock.
Come on over.
And Saturday morning. He will also be at the picnic Sunday the 18th, this Sunday, here to celebrate the last day of religious school in Lag BaOmer. Wednesday, May 21st at 6 p.m., we will have our annual congregational meeting. We need to elect new board members and thank our outgoing executive committee and board members. Dinner will be provided. We will be taking a new congregational picture and individual pictures for B'nai Zion Photo Directory. Please be here. We're going to do it not at the beginning, so those people don't get mad, and not at the end, so those people don't get mad, but right in the middle. And then everybody will be mad.
That much
Yeah,
better.
it's great.
I
But
like
come with your smiles on. Saturday, May 24th, services will be at 10:30 as we celebrate Joshua Hecker becoming a bar mitzvah. He will help lead the service and will be called up to the Torah. Kiddush luncheon in his honor following the service. The following Saturday, May 31st, services will be at 10:30 as we celebrate Mary Beth Muslow becoming a bat mitzvah. She will help lead the service and be called up to the Torah. Kiddush luncheon in her honor following the service. Donations were made to B'nai Zion or for Pulpit Flowers in memory of Bernice Clark and Louis Glazer by Harriet and Jay Glazer, in memory of Fanny Goldman by Sharon and Elliot Goldman, in memory of Moses Leon Murov by Shirley Seligman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you are under the age of 13 still, please come up and help me open up the ark. Ha! Sorry. You're just too old, Caroline. Everyone else, please turn to page 148. As we open the ark for the Aleinu, please rise. Page 148. Aleinu leshabeach l'Adon hakol, לתת גדולה יוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. We continue in the middle of page 149 and we sing, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. When the ark is closed, you may be seated. Thank you. Don't hurt that ark. Thank you. You may be seated. It is with a very heavy heart that I tell you that we lost Chief Warrant Officer Derek M. Rasmussen from the Army this week. He was 33 years old. He was from California, and he died in Afghanistan. We continue on page 151. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, let us meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We continue on page 153. In nature's ebb and flow, your eternal law abides. As you are our support in the struggles of life, so also are you our hope in death. In your care, O God, are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Your power gives us strength. Your love comforts us. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts. Fill us with trust in you and turn us again to the tasks of life. And may the memory of our loved ones inspire us to continue their work for the coming of your sovereign rule. However brief may be our time on earth, O God, you endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. We now recall the loved ones whom death has taken from us in years past, as we take them into our hearts with our own. Those for whom we're observing Yortzites this week include Rose Offertig, Bernice Clark, Annie Fagelson, Dr. J. Robert Fry, Louis Glazer, Fanny Goldman, Charles G. Meyer, Moses Leon Murov, Mrs. Ruth Simon, and Harry Zwick. In this moment of memory, our griefs and sympathies are mingled. Loving God, we rise as together we praise your name. The Mourner's Kaddish is found on page 154. The translation is on 155. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, be'alma divra chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chaychon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yeheh shemei Rabba mevarach la'alam u'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha b'richu, la'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yeheh shalama Rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. Amen. I need everyone who's under 13 to come back up again. Everyone else may be seated for a moment. But if you want to enjoy the delicious Oneg Shabbat that Harriet and Jay have, let's go into the front, that brought to us, come this way, this way, this way. Then we need to say blessing. Ready? This way. Show everybody the challah. It's another lovely Sorki challah special, right? That's okay. It's just 3 of you. Go ahead. Motzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together
as our
joyfully prayer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'tei avon. Oh, cool. You saved the challah. You dropped the board. You lost a toe. I told you it was one of those weeks. I'll take this, and you take the challah. It's okay.
I'm so sorry.
Take some. Take some to Mom. Yep, good idea. Please rise for the closing benediction. I feel like we are more connected now than ever to Israel since we stare at this gorgeous wall now and know that we have a part of Zion here with us at all times. We feel more connected now because we have connections to Israel too, every day more and more in strength. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you. May God protect you. Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May the light of God's face shine upon you, be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's face be lifted up to you. May God grant you peace. Shabbat shalom. Anybody want to ride to a good Athachim? Let me know. You need a ride? What?